Okay, so remember that if you speak, it will be made public, but your faces will not. All right, and if you have to talk to me, just do it in the comment section. I am I'm really excited. And to tell you how excited I am, we're moving from a very large house, for those of you that don't know me, which is where my husband and I have lived for 27 years. It's where my practice has been. It's where I've done retreats. We have 2 apartments that have helped us afford to stay here. So it's a big, big property, right? And we're leaving, and everything's in boxes in front of me. I mean, if you saw the little space that I'm closed into, it's pretty sad, right? But I wanted to do this so badly, and I've wanted to do it for so long, that I wasn't going to let this interim period, which is probably only going to last a few more weeks, and then we'll be in our new place. I didn't want it to stop me, because the program that I'm going to talk to you about later is going to begin in February, and it's going to end in February of 2023. But anyway, let's just look at writing for right now and where you are. So I hope you all have some blank paper and a pen. All right. And you don't have to share anything you write this morning. It's just for you. I want you mostly to have a conversation with yourself, okay? And the first thing I want to ask you, and don't worry about spelling, don't worry about grammar, don't worry about somebody else reading it. I want you to write as honestly with yourself as you can, which is probably the biggest gain for all of us when we write, is that we come to ourselves in a way that nothing else will take you to yourself. So if you have any inclination to be a writer, then you're hungry for this conversation with yourself. And there's Teresa from Mexico. Hi, Therese. So the first thing I want you to write about is, why did you sign up for the seminar? You've got some kind of an idea, some kind of a nudge. Why? Why did you sign up? And let yourself write. Just going to give you a couple of minutes, and I'm going to make you do it quickly without stopping. And you're not going to feel like you've finished what I've encouraged you to write. We're going to keep it moving. Why did you sign up for the seminar? Some idea, some nudge. There's some kind of something talking to you. Let yourselves breathe. Okay, you're going to draw a line underneath that. Now I want you to write about, what's your relationship with writing? What have you been told about your writing? What has a teacher ever said, or a friend ever said? What criticisms have you received or have you given yourself about writing? So take a deep breath, or maybe you remember an experience about writing. To have a journal or a diary as a kid. Diaries and journals are very different. It is a place you've gone to with your thoughts. Let yourself breathe. And I'm going to give you a little bit longer with this and a little tiny bit of music with this, okay? What has been positive in your life about your writing? What has been painful in your life about writing? What have you resisted? Take a deep breath. Just let yourself go wherever it wants to go. I'm going to give you 1 more minute. Okay. I'm going to open it up now. You can take that slide off the screen there, Uma. I'm going to open it up now if there's anyone who would just like to share just anything about what you just wrote. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
I'll go.
Okay, Jen.
I signed up because I have so much bottled up that I need to let out and express myself. I'm creative and I feel like I have something to offer others. I've been told by others that I have a gift for writing and I've always loved it. I've found a lot of I've worked out a lot of problems as I write through them, and I find it cathartic. A lot of people have said to me, you should write a book. Positive about it, it's often given me a voice when I felt in life that I haven't had a voice. Purges my emotions. Progress to look back and see the reality of how bad things were sometimes was painful, and that's helped me to face and accept my reality.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? All our stories are very different. Okay, Susan.
Hi, good morning. Well, the idea of writing something, it wasn't my life story, memoir, or anything like that, has been in and out of my brain, floating around for, let's say, decades. I don't have a time frame, but it seems like for a while I thought I wasn't creative enough or wasn't good enough to do it, couldn't do it right. So like living and surviving got in the way of any creative ideas that I was having. But I remember back in like 1991, I talked to a friend of mine, Christine Gallant, and I said, I'd like to write a book, and I only know the first phrase, how I'm going to start it. And it occurred to me. That's the beginning of the book. And she said, what's it about? And I said, oh, I don't know yet. That will be revealed. And we laughed and laughed and thought that was hysterical that I only had that line to start it with. And then it took a backseat to life again. And the relationship with writing has to do with old stuff that's now I'm not feeling or doing anymore to myself. You know, somebody telling me I wasn't good enough. But I do remember sometimes, like when I started college, they had a writing eval to see if you could skip writing 101 and go to 102. And my mind was completely blown. I was never so proud that I got into 102 by my writing thing, that somebody thought I wrote well. And then later in life, I went to graduate school, and my professors and thesis advisors were all like, "Man, you have a talent for writing." I'm like, "Do I though? Do I?" Um, so I think I have fun with writing. Me and my mom used to exchange silly poems, very long, rhymey poems, all my adult life, and I have a whole collection of them. I don't think anyone else would think they're funny or good, but our relationship sure loved them. And I write poems to my granddaughter, and she now can write back to me. But as a full grown woman, like I have so much stuff that I think that the idea of writing it or sharing it is exciting to me. So
Oh,
so
good.
this is very timely, Irene, very timely.
Oh, good, good.
And
Anyone?
I also now have a magic writing pen that I use when I'm writing profound stuff. So I have a special pen, and it helps me write. It's like
Great,
magic.
right, great, great. Anybody relate or have a whole different way to look at it?
I do, Irene.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Is that Jack? And there's and
Yes,
Jane.
yes.
Jane, you can talk in a minute. Let's do a Jack right now. Okay, go ahead.
The questions you asked were quite good because they're ones that I've been asking myself. There are lots of reasons why I haven't written before now, because I was raised in an atmosphere where nobody wants to hear about you. Don't start a sentence with I. And it's overcoming that. This is a healing process, learning that my story, 20 years as a healer, is worth being told. And it's also overcoming a stroke that incapacitated one of my hands. Typing is out, I speak into a computer. And then I've written 19 chapters, and I'm editing them now for delivering to a publisher.
Fabulous, fabulous. And you raised a really good point. Like we don't have to write it; we can transcribe it. I'm coaching someone with a book right now, and he feels very inadequate about writing. He feels very inadequate about his spelling, but he's a brilliant guy who's been restoring historical buildings for a long time all over the United States. And he has these magic stories about the restorations and what he's done. And as soon as I introduced to him the idea, you could just talk it into your telephone and we can make this work. It was like this whole new world open for him because somebody told him a long time ago when he was in school that he couldn't write. So he believed them, you know, and so many of us have done that. That's great to hear, Jack. And
well, you might tell your friend to try Chromebook. There's a certain program that allows you to write very clearly, very seldom misses a word.
okay, great, great. And who's over here? Jane Pullman, do you want to talk? You need to unmute, hon.
Unmute. Okay, is that better?
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, thank you. I do not consider myself to be a writer particularly, but the writing that I really have been thinking about doing and wanting to do for years is for my son, so that when I'm gone, he'll know who I was and my history. My family, they were Russian Jews, and I know very, very little about them. My mother had a terrible, terrible childhood, and she would tell us some happy things about it, but she would imply there were very unhappy things, but she never would tell us much of anything about them. I don't know who my relatives are going back past my grandparents. I have no idea. And I don't know exactly where my grandparents are from. I know my grandmother was born in Romania and my grandfather was born in Russia on my father's side. And I believe that both of my mother's parents were Russian, but they both died when my mother was 9. But anyway, so I want to write for my son so that he has more information about his family than I had for mine. And so far, what I've been doing is um, when I have a memory or something that I think is worth telling him, I just have been keeping a list of little vignettes in my head, like how my grandmother used to put me in the bathtub and wash my toes and she'd dry me off, and I always thought, why is she doing this? Does she think that I don't have a place to bathe at home? But other than that, I have a graduate degree, and the only writing feedback I've ever had was from a professor, but that was academic writing. So I kept a journal for about 40 years or 50 years actually, and I've gone back and read it a couple of times, and it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I got tired of reading it, and I chucked it.
Well, but there are ways that we can move that forward, hon. There are ways we can move
Okay.
that forward, and you can cull a lot of gold out of that. So
Okay.
what you're talking about is legacy writing. And there are an
Okay.
awful lot of people who would love to pass on some legacy. It's not to keep some continuity in the family and to keep some light on the story. Absolutely. What
Yes.
I want to give you a first assignment right now, and that
Okay.
is write about what it's felt like to not know your family. Write that story. What has it been like to not know your family? How have you felt about that? What you feel about this stuff is more important to anybody than anything else. Okay. What happens to a lot of us is we get really stuck in facts, and we think we need to like fact, but it's much more about who was the human being that didn't know much about her family. Thank you for sharing that, hon.
Thank you.
Who somebody else had their hand up? Oh, over here. The flowered shirt. I don't have your name. It just says iPhone.
It's Laurie Georgie.
Oh, hi, Laurie. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm a friend of Paula MacGyver.
Oh, okay. So what would you like to share, honey?
So, sorry if I'm screaming, I have a loud voice. I wanted to tell my story because I think it's strange, but I wanted to also help people by the end of the story. Do people like write a book for more than one reason? Obviously, like I want to help people. Can I add, it's not going to be a Christian book, but can I add that God helped me along the way of this story?
Laurie, your book is your book. You write anything you want to write in it. And I started my first book with an idea that I was working on a statistics class in grad school. Okay. Yep. And I had no idea where that book was going. That book told me where it was going. That's why I fell in love with writing so much, is when you go in, there's 2 parts to writing, whether you're going to call it a manual or a book or a pamphlet, whatever you're doing. Okay. There's 2 parts to it. There's the part where you're writing it and you're exploring it and you're letting whatever wants to come through you. And then there's a whole nother game, and that's called marketing it or selling it or whatever you want to do with it. All right. Those are 2 different sports.
Okay.
I'm going to teach you about writing, and what I do is I will help you own your own voice and tell your own story. What really is very difficult in the outside world, I think, especially in the academic world, is to find a way to write where they're not telling you that you need to sound like this. You know, they're going to get you to write their way, and you watch a lot of people get stifled and they lose the juice of what they have to offer. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And as Jack was saying, he was taught that you never use the word I.
Right.
When both my books are pretty autobiographical, right? And the first one, I thought I was going to vomit if I wrote the word I one more time, like, oh, mother of God, Irene, you are obnoxious, Jesus. And then I had a friend who was coaching me and making me, I wanted to make it sound like a smart therapist, and I was going to give you all these facts. And she kept saying, people want your story, Irene. They want your story, you know? And she kept making me write the I and the I and the I. And it was unnerving. I felt like I was at the mall without any clothes on. It felt so exposed. It was gross. And she was right. She was absolutely right. You know, it opened up me to so many parts of myself I had no idea about. So
Now,
go ahead, honey.
Now, I was going to say that it's funny. I do my best writing, but I'm not writing. It's when I lay down and try and you go to sleep, and I can't sleep. And the things I say then are like, oh my gosh, that's so good. But I'm tired.
Do you just talk it, or do you write it?
I think it.
Okay, let's stop the thinking. Let's stop the thinking and let's start the writing. Okay.
Okay.
Get it all down on paper, because there's many, many ways to cull that. And to what I like to explain to people is very often you'll get a scene or an idea or something, and you'll start writing that. And that's like, you know, like I think it was June was saying in her journal, I'm doing the same stuff over and over and over again. But eventually something will come out of that, and you'll realize I didn't go there. I could have gone there. Why did I stop and not go there? There was a thought that came up and I didn't go to that next thought. And then you can write about the resistance. Why didn't I go to the next thought? What was stopping me from going to the next thought? That can open up all kinds of stuff for you. But very often in my writing, it would be an idea would come and I'd write about that idea, and that would kick off another idea, and that would kick off another idea. And it would be the third one that I would decide I wanted to type into my computer. Okay, I would hand those first three, but that third one I'd say, you know what, I want to keep this one. Nice. So what you do is you make a document, all right, and you can, you know, when you're making that final like little one right there, you're not worrying about editing it, you're not worried about spelling, you're not worried about grammar. What you say to yourself is give it a title that will make sense to you. It's not necessarily a title you're gonna, you know, could be losing my shoes on that field trip, you know. It's just something that I'm going to remember what that piece was about, because one of the hardest things to do when you're writing anything of length is to keep track of all the moving parts. Okay. So you always give it a title and give it a date, but a title that'll just remind you. It's not one you're going to use later on necessarily. My first book for 3 years had the title of What Was I Thinking, until it became Not Like My Mother. All right. And that just kind of came out like after a while when you're wrestling back and forth with it all the time. Jen's very deep into a book that she's writing right now. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you, Jen? So what I do as a coach is I really help you stay with it. It's the old teacher in me, and the way I was taught education is that you have your answers, you have your path. I'm just going to get you to believe in it. I'm going to get you to stay there with it. Does that make sense? And it doesn't have to be me doing it for you. You can do it for yourself, but it's helpful when you have somebody who's going to coach you and hold you to it. All right. Someone else wanted to share.
Catherine M. and Joanne.
Oh, Catherine M. Go ahead, honey. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you too. Oh my gosh. So I just wanted to say, I heard you talk about the family, and one of the things that's been keeping me from writing a book is the fear of my family. My family would not want me to write about this. And it's kind of my whole life story. And it does involve dogs. It does involve pets. And just to say that, you know, I'm always the one that writes the eulogies. I just had a writer tell me that I write beautifully. A lot of times it's around loss and death that I think I do my most beautiful writing. But I want to somehow be able to write a book about my life without my family, disowning me because of it. I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but that's all.
Have
all
you
I
ever,
want.
have you ever heard of Annie Lamott?
No.
Oh, she's fabulous. And if you like to write, you should read her book. It's called Bird by Bird. I mean, she's written a ton of books, about 40 of them, but her book Bird by Bird is about writing. All right. And one of the things she says, if people don't like the way you write about them in your book, they should have been nicer to you. No, just kidding.
See, for me, it's more about the story. It's a big bad family secret, but it's my story, so they're not going to want to see that out in the world. Like,
so
maybe
what you do is
yeah.
first of all, you write it. Okay, you write it, and you make sure that you're not using that as an excuse so you can stay away from the story.
Right.
You
Right.
don't want to see the story. All right, and you can always turn it into fiction. There's, you can always make up some characters and some names, and you can turn it into fiction.
Okay.
But
All right.
make sure that the reason we can tell ourselves, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but we can also be really saying to ourselves, I don't want to see this story. I don't want this story to be as real as it is. I don't want to look at this pain.
Right. I imagine you might have had some of that with your book about I'm Not My Mother, or I'm sorry.
Oh my
about
God, over and over again. Absolutely. And you'll know what it is you want to put out there, and you'll know what it is you don't want to put out there, and like, he's dead now, my first husband, but when it was finally published, the attorney said you can't use his real name like that, and I was like, okay, because he did not nice stuff. So I changed his name. Now it doesn't matter, he's been dead for quite a few years now, but there's ways around it. But I knew that I was avoiding it because I didn't want to look at it. So make sure it's you're having this conversation with you. Afterwards, there's lots of ways that can be tweaked and things can be worked out.
And I can kind of hide under a ghost name too, right?
Absolutely. You can do any damn thing you want. It's your book. That's all I want you guys to know. David, you wanted to share something.
Joanne was actually next.
Oh, all right. Wait a minute, Dave. Forget it. Joanne, where are you?
I'm here. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to be here. So I know it said memoir writing. I've been to one of your these lectures, morning chat groups before, and it was nice. Got your invitation for memoir. I write a lot in the sense of both it's therapeutic, but I'm compelled. It's almost like an ode, free form. I love writing, and so I'm here because I wanted to explore and improve my creative writing. So I write the way I paint because I want to, like all good things, kayak. So I'm drawn to that, and so that's why I'm here. And I was thinking I can garnish some stuff, and so I don't know if I have no intention of writing a book, so I don't know
Sure.
the right place.
So there's a slide here, Uma. Why do you want to write a book? Is it a book, or what else could it be? A manual, short stories, a memoir, a novel, a screenplay, fiction, nonfiction, professional credentials, children's book, illustrated fiction. It's whatever you want. I never meant for this to be just a memoir class at all. And you might find a whole new form of writing, where you're a painter or an illustrator. Oh my God, what could you open up? What could you magically produce with your writing and your whimsy or your free floating or whatever? You go, girlfriend. Absolutely.
I mean, even without your words of encouragement right there, even if I was to sit quietly through this, even if it was all book, I would garnish, I would learn and grow. So but now your words, yeah, it's more encouraging, just to listen and to participate.
So, you know, when you said there's something that compels me, there's something that wants to come through, that's
Mhm.
exactly how I wrote both my books. My sister was the writer in the family. I never saw myself as a writer. You know, I didn't write my book until my first book, I was like 59. And it, you know, it took me about 5 or 6 years to write it. And you know what a whole lot of it was? A whole lot of it was arguing with myself. Who are you to call yourself a writer? Who are you to call yourself a writer, Missy? You know, and like Jack said, using that I sentence, that I sentence, that I sentence over and over again. But that nudging, and when I use the word deliberately in the beginning about what's nudging in you, what's nudging in you, that nudging was in me and it wouldn't stop. It just kept knocking on the door. And I'm so, so grateful that I did it. And I've done it twice. And I have 2 more planned for the coming year, which is a part of what I'm looking forward to by leaving this big house and the life that I've had behind for now. I'll still have my practice, but it won't be all the retreats and it won't be running this big house with it. I'm really looking forward to like some more time for this.
Can
David,
I just add one thing real quick, which
Sure
is years ago, a young lady in junior college, I was introduced to an essay by James Baldwin. And a part of it, I remember, he said, it's the duty of the artist or the writer, whatever, to go inward and come out and give to the world, which is what is in. And actually, years later, my therapist said the same thing to me, that you like to go inward and bring it out. So that I always found that thought very encouraging.
what else do we have here on the planet to offer but that which is us? You know, it's like, I always think that each one of us is a flower in the garden, but we're each different, you know, chrysanthemum, a peony, a rose, a daisy. But we, you know, we're all human beings, but we have our own way of seeing the world. And the world needs to know what we have to say.
Yeah, it's nice.
But first, we have to know what we have to say. We have to connect with it. I can't wait to see what it is you produce or create. Dave, do you want to talk, hon? You got to unmute, David. Unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Something you just said, I just wanted to say, as someone who was with Irene and have witnessed her writing her 2 books, that many times I remember her needing to stop because the tears were right there. She had to cry about the story that she was putting down. But the thing I loved is she always picked up the pen again and continued on. That's just part of the process when you're into your writing. That's all.
Do you want to tell them what one of your plans is for what you'd like to create for Julia?
Oh yeah, it's right over here. I'm writing. Eventually I wanted to turn a book. All of the, Julia's my granddaughter. And as her grandpa, she called me Papa. We had many excursions, events, tales, adventures, times from fishing to hiking to you name it. And so I'm writing memoir stories. I've got a book like this one, and I'm writing all the collective stories of the life and times with my granddaughter growing up. It's a lot of fun, actually.
And how much is she going to enjoy that, guys, right? I mean, how much is she going to love that's just for her, it's just hers. It's, you know, and he's also made up a whole bunch of stories about the big bad wolf. He started that with her when she was really little, and that went on until she was about 13, for God's sakes, you know. Tell me another one. And he'd had all these adventures about what the pigs and the big bad wolf were doing. I mean, it was just so creative. Anyway, love you, hon.
I really enjoyed making up crazy stories, and just watching her laugh was my joy and delight. And she would laugh so she could hardly get breath. I loved it.
Somebody else want to share? Bonnie, yes, love to hear from you.
Here, okay. Thank you for your invite again, Irene. I have so much writing to get into a book. I was in a writing class for a group for about 8 years. And so I have a lot of writing to get into a book that's all in file folders. And I promised the love of my life, who I was in a relationship, long distance relationship, going on 13, it would have been 13 years. And he was waiting for that. I had it written. I had it in poetic form. And I promised him I would. Unfortunately, he passed away suddenly next month, 1 year ago on the 6th of February.
Oh.
So I used to write or think about writing as a child. And I showed my sister one time what I wrote. I felt safe enough to do that. She just looked at me and says, anyone can write that. So right away I thought, well, that's no big deal. So I'm just not going to write, but at least I won't tell anyone, right? And then when my mom passed away, I did not remember this. However, I had an award from my grade school about a poem that I don't remember, like I said, but I got an excellent on it. I had no idea. I don't know what I wrote, and I got an excellent. So when I joined my writing group, others would say to me how great my writing was. It took me a long time to believe that. When I wrote a poem for my mom on her 80th birthday, people came up to me and said, do you publish your poems? I kind of looked at them because as my mom was reading it, she gave me this condescending look and said, you wrote that? Oh, I remembered how dumb she thought I was, and I was not dumb. I'm a great poet and writer.
That's excellent, huh?
And the reason I wanted to join this is like I've got my writing, I've written for years, and I believe what Joanne said about my life, I wouldn't dare put it in any book, but I don't want to now. At this stage of my life, I don't want to. But I am going to get the book that I promised the love of my life, and that'll be a memory for me.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, honey. Does anyone else want to share?
We've got Teresa has her hand up. Teresa
Okay.
B.
Teresa.
Well, first of all, I want to say hello to you, Irene. You're always in my thoughts and in my heart, and I'm always so almost many years willing to write, and I don't start. I have so much resistance, and I put so much in my daily schedule that I'm always so busy. But I still won't, and the need is still there because I think I have so many, like you know, many paths and many experiences of life, and there are so many young people now who don't have those experiences anymore. They don't know how was the life before the whole internet started, before the cellular. The mobile telephone started. That changed so much in the world, and they have no idea anymore how was life before that. And that's what I should like to share, and that's a part of my story. Much grown nation, so much more people and having structure, and I want to write, and they are writers. I'm not a writer, but I wrote something, and you know, I read what I wrote, and it was very well received, and it was just like I'm telling, like I'm talking. It's not really a serious official article what I wrote, and yes.
So the word, Teresa, the word that I would encourage everybody to use instead of official is authentic. Your piece was incredibly authentic, and that's what we each have to offer. We have to offer our authenticity. Your incredible adventure from going from Holland to Mexico and making a whole new life for yourself there. I mean, you have so much to share, so much to share.
Oh, I know. I know. And people want to hear it. They're really interesting. Even now in Mexico, people want to know how was life here in the country of Mexico 40 years ago, because here it's also changed so much.
How was it?
They
how was
forget it.
How was it there 40 years ago? And how was it for a woman who came from Holland to go there? I mean, the change of your world was so incredibly different. Also, I just lost my train of thought about your writing. I'll get back to it, whatever it was. But anyway, I just want to encourage you. I know what I wanted to say. And I want to say this to everybody. When you're up against resistance, write about the damn resistance. Just write about it. What's the resistance saying to you? What are you saying to the resistance? What are you up against? There you get so much juice from that. Always write about the resistance. It's not that that's just a place where you get plugged.
Yeah.
Okay. And the ego doesn't want to share something, or you're trying to control something. You get up against that all the time. So write yourself through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Trace. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just looking at the time. I love that you're here, and I want you to.
Thank you very much.
Is there someone else that wants to share?
Yeah, I do.
Laurie.
So I just wanted to say that I've written most of my life, I've written diaries and journals. By the way, what is the difference between a journal and a diary that you said before, Irene?
Well, a journal is more organic and more authentic. A diary is kind of like, and at 6 o'clock we did this, and at 8 o'clock we did that. That was more like it's just kind of a recording. Like a recording, you're documenting. A journal is you're much more involved with having a conversation with yourself and life.
So you don't buy a journal with a little key to it?
No. Well, you do if you're 12,
Right.
and you don't want your parents to read what you're doing.
There you go. So I took creative writing for every semester in college, and I really enjoy writing. But I've had this tape in my head my whole life that I got from my mother primarily, that I'm lazy. And so it sort of has translated into, I'm too lazy to, and when I write, I find that, I'll be writing and I just want to get it done. So I just kind of wrap it up. It's not like I am, when you were just talking about write about the resistance, how do you write? I mean, if I'm feeling lazy, then I'm just not writing.
So tell me right now, give me 5 words to describe what lazy feels like to you when you're feeling lazy.
Unwilling, slow, other things I don't want to say. Yeah, not good enough. Wow, that's weird.
You just started writing about resistance. Look how much information you just got.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You guys understand what I'm saying? You go in and you look at it, give it some more words, give it 3 or 4 other words. All right. Like it's someone talking to you the other day and they said, I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. And I said, well, tell me what overwhelmed feels like. Give me 5 words for overwhelmed. And the bottom line was she came up with, I'm discouraged. I'm really sad. And she was looking more at like, I'm stressed, And when she got to the, I'm sad, I'm discouraged, I'm disappointed, so much more opened up for her. So pull it at like a piece of yarn, that unravels.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you.
All right, sweetheart. Anyone else want to share? Greg, isn't there something you're dying to talk to us about?
Yes, I'd be more than happy to share a little bit. I signed up mostly because I think about writing every day. It's always in my head constantly. I want to get the thoughts out of my head and onto paper. And once I get them on the paper, it just feels really good. It's very cathartic to honestly get that right out of there. And I also, I tend to, I believe I see things from a slanted point. Like somebody might look at a couch and say that's a couch, and I'll say it's an alligator. You know what I mean? I have this vivid imagination that in the past I used to be ashamed of because it would get me in trouble. But now it just seems like it's a gift that I have this imagination that runs wild. And I mean, I'll be talking to my wife or anybody, and I'll just go off on a tangent somewhere. But for me, the biggest struggle I have is negativity towards how do I get things published? It just seems like such a big, bad world out there, you know, with trying to break into the publishing world, trying to break into, you know, here's my story, but how do I get it out there? And I get discouraged sometimes because I get rejection letters and, you know, thanks, but no thanks. Maybe try a different magazine or a different publisher. And it's that kind of puts me in a tailspin where I stop writing because I get discouraged.
Okay, so let's look at that. So did that, not getting it published, did that take away any of the joy of writing it?
Well, sometimes, because sometimes it makes me feel that the writing that I did wasn't good enough to spark that interest in a publisher.
So
And
how,
yeah.
so I'd encourage you to write around your relationship with not good enough. Is that an old theme? Is that a story? How is that?
Oh yeah.
How has
Yeah,
that worked out in your life? You know, that I'm not good enough. I mean, take a look at that. Take a look at that.
Yeah.
All right. And so I wanted to say something about the publishing. You absolutely have to accept rejection, no question about it, especially if you're doing essays or short pieces or whatever, you know. I also want to talk to you about the authors, the writers who have self-published. Mark Twain, Stephen King, you know, Wayne Dyer, Beatrix Potter. There's just a ton of people who self-published, all right? What Stephen King did was he created a little newspaper. And that's how he got started, you know, like passing that around or whatever, or gathering with other people. But you can't let that, that's a different ball game. Writing is writing and publishing is another, it's another sport. But you need to like write because you love writing, because you enjoy writing, and you need to start celebrating that for yourself.
Thank you, Irene. The other thing that gets me is the self-discipline. I have a touch of ADD, so I might go up to write and I'll see the room needs dusting, and next thing you know, I'm cleaning the whole house instead of sitting down to write.
You know,
and that's a big thing with me.
Oh yeah, what's her name? Elizabeth Gilbert. She has a great book out called Big Magic, and she talks a lot about her process, right? I love reading about, that's part of the reason I knew I wanted to write, was I've always loved reading writers write about their writing. Like, I'm not crazy about Stephen King's books, but I love his book on writing. It's called On Writing. I've read it 3 times. Annie Lamott's got a great book. I told you before, Bird by Bird. Elizabeth Gilbert has the great, you know, she's got a couple of really good ones too. But one of the things that she says is that writing on a computer is like writing at a carnival, you know, because it's so flippin' easy to go down rat holes. You know, you say, oh, how will I describe that couch? And then you're looking at Lazy Boy ads, you know, for the next half hour. And then you're going to paint your living room a different color. And then, you know, you just go down those rat holes, which is why it can be really valuable just to use a pen and a notebook and put yourself somewhere where you're not doing that. I have to do that all the time. Here's some myths about writers. This is another slide, Uma, that you could put up for me.
Thank you, Irene.
Thank you. And I know that I'm really pushing you guys because I don't have a lot of time, and I just want you to celebrate the fact that you have enough writer in you that you would sign up to go to go somewhere for an hour and a half and talk about writing. Just want you to know that. So these myths about writers, that's a little different, Uma. What you have up on the screen right now, or am I seeing it incorrectly? I'm seeing the flyer for the program.
I see myth about writers. Does anyone else see that?
Oh, it didn't show up on my, it's all right.
No, it's not on. We see
Okay, let
your
me
whole
try
screen.
Yeah, it looks like we're seeing your desktop.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Right now. How about
There it
this?
is. That's it. Right. Okay. Writers always knew they wanted to write. That is not true. Okay. That's not true. A lot of times for us, it was just, there was like a story or a nudge or something that just wanted to talk to you. There was just this nudging inside. Writers have God-given talents that make writing come effortlessly. That is absolute bullshit. Writers work very, very hard. Okay. It doesn't just come, but there's a motivation inside them that makes them like hang out with it and stay with it. Writers have a lot of free time to dedicate to writing. It doesn't have to be that way at all. Very, very few people do have time. Jen, she's working full time and has a phenomenal manuscript going right now. How are you finding time for it, Jen?
Well, actually what I started doing, because I'm just relating to everything that everybody has said. I choose a word for the year and it's consistency. Literally try to find 15 minutes a day. And sometimes it's writing about my topic, which is resiliency. Sometimes it's getting a story in my head about my childhood down on paper. And sometimes it's doing some research specific to it. But literally 15 minutes. If I can carve out 15 minutes, I'm feeling like I've really accomplished something. Sometimes I sit down and it ends up being a whole lot longer. Sometimes, like Greg, I end up cleaning the house, but that's kind of how I'm trying to do it.
And I would say to you, Jen, I totally get it. And I would say to you, but you give it that 15 minutes. And sometimes you give it that 15 minutes and you feel like you're wrestling a cat, you know, and it's just, you keep showing back up. You keep showing back up. It's kind of like the way you make anything work on this planet. You know, I've been sober 38 years, but I didn't do it in a chunk. I've done it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one step at a time. Probably the most significant accomplishment in my life. When I wrote my book, I was working full time. I had an internship going on. You know, it was just something in me just kept wanting to go to the paper, kept wanting to go to the paper. And and it's that way for everybody. You just fit it into your life. You just show up for yourself with a conversation. The thing that I would suggest that you do, though, and it's about the organization, because it can feel like a lot of little nothing for you initially, but I beg you, start making that like into some kind of a folder with some kind of a little topic on it that you can keep some order to it. Doesn't have to be real complicated. You know, it could be a 3-ring binder where you just, you know, punch some holes into that and you give it a little title, whatever it was. You know, the title piece could be Making Myself Crazy During the Winter Move in 2022, whatever the bullshit was that I was writing that day. But some way that you have some access to it afterwards, okay? We don't have a lot of time. None of us have a lot of time. Nobody has a lot of time. We just don't. I don't know what that, you know, but I know when I have a nudge and I want to satisfy it. Also, the thing about another myth is that everybody thinks that writers have special connections. They have agents or they have editors or they have special connections, and it's just a breezy path. There's nobody that ever got published that didn't go through rejections. And publish, it's like running a marathon. Winning the marathon is not the only value in the thousands and thousands of people who run marathons, right? Of the thousands and thousands of people who run marathons, it's that they did it. They did it. And they did it one step at a time, 1/4 of a mile at a time, one exercise at a time. That's what this is about. And then after, when it's finished, or you think it's finished, and that's a whole nother game, is learning when to stop writing it and to call it done, okay? You'll be shown what to do with it. You'll decide what to do with it then. That's a whole nother sport. Now, to know that writers always knew what they wanted to write about. That's not true. Here's something that I learned really early on in the game, and I wish like crazy I could remember the woman who quote, I heard her on NPR. She was a children's author and I cannot remember her name. But she said, writers do not write this one down for yourselves. Writers don't write because they have the answers. Writers write because they have the questions. And so you constantly want to be asking yourself, what question am I writing about right now? What's up for me? And it can be in fiction. It doesn't just have to be in nonfiction, but what question's coming up for me right now? Any movie you watch, they're answering a question. Any book you read, there's a question being answered. What's the question? Any TV show, there's a question being answered. Have a noticing of what's the question you're asking. Well, you can, I think I'd like to give everybody a chance to write a little bit right now.
Sure.
Okay, so we can, I want you to ask yourself, what question do you think you're asking right now in your life? If this is feeling like I'm too scattered for you guys, I apologize. I may be trying to give you too much that I want you to walk away with. Excuse my scatteredness from my enthusiasm, and I'm wanting you all to birth whatever writing it is you're supposed to birth. But what question are you asking yourself in your life right now? I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Or write about anything else that's up for you right now after all this talking. Okay, Emma. Thank you. Thanks, hon. Thanks for doing that. Is anybody willing to share a little bit of that?
I'll go first again.
Sure, sweet.
What's my question in life now? Why? What's it all mean? What's it all about? What's it for? Who cares? The experiences, the feelings, the dreams, the being lost, the mystery, panning for gold, going through the grit, finding meaning, reconciling the past with the now, fear, hope, love, struggle.
Wow, that's rich.
I'm exhausted.
Well, you're in a very, very big time of your life, sweetie. But just what you did, I mean, how much juice is in that? There's about 25 essays. Good job. Good job. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share.
Oh, Jen, go.
So I had a couple of things. So my project's around resiliency. So some of the questions that I'm trying to answer are, what is resiliency? Is it the same for everyone? Then I also had like a side one, which is, what am I capable of? Like I'm just curious about, can I actually accomplish this? Like, just as an aside. And then whenever I start these questions, I end up like going down into really big questions, like, how do I strengthen my resiliency and encourage others to strengthen theirs? What would more resilient people look like, and how would it impact our society if people were more resilient? And do societies exist that are more resilient than others? There's a concept called sisu in Finland, I believe, which is just their culture, how they live in a resilient way. And so when you have cultures or societies like that, how does that impact their health, their happiness, their mental health? So those are some of the questions that kind of flow through when I start these exercises.
There's this woman writer, her name is Annie Dillard, and someone gave me her book a long time ago, and she talks about, and it's her book on writing. And she talks about when she first became a writer, decided she was a writer, she thought it was very romantic that she was going to have a legal pad and a pen and just start, and she was going to be at her friend's beach house, And then she said what she realized afterwards is she needed a goddamn warehouse, because the research would just open up and open up and open. Whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction, you just get more and more stuff. And like I was watching your questions go down, and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Yes. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, actually, Irene, I have a question.
Sure.
So I always bump up against this question of ego, because I think it's hard for me anyway to separate out how much about wanting to share is about ego or looking for affirmation. I mean, I want to make sure that my agenda does not have ego involved. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Well,
and it's a fine line, it seems.
No, it's not. Just write. Just write and write and write and write and write. And then, you'll get a first manuscript done, and then you'll look at it and you'll see what feels like authenticity. You can have a beta reader. You can have some people to like take a look at it and tell you how they feel about it. You're going to have to open up yourself to some feedback. You just write. You don't have to cull it all out now. You'll get it. And you'll get the stuff when you read it back to yourself and go like, oh my God, what the hell? I bored myself with that. Or the writing will start writing through you if you just allow it. Don't control it. Let it go. Does that make sense, Holly?
Yeah. Well, and I related to what you said about, well, who do you think you are, Missy?
Right.
That really is
going on.
Yeah, that hits the nail on the head. It's like, who the heck do you think you are that anybody else wants to hear your story?
Oh my God, honey.
And thankfully, my husband didn't listen to that, because people love his book.
Yes, 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 yes. You just do it and you push yourself through that. David can tell you, I spent a year like one of the exercises I got from a workshop I went to, she made us go around and say out loud, I'm a writer. Well, I felt like I wanted to puke, like, oh my God, I'm a writer. I mean, that was just like, I was gagging on it. I was just gagging on it. And now, I don't know, this is 20 years later, maybe not even 20, it's probably less than 20. I know I'm a writer, like I know I'm a sober woman, like I know I'm a grandmother. It's like, I know it's a part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's so valuable to me. Am I published? Yeah, I published a couple of books. They were self-published. Did everybody in the world love them? No, but a lot more people in the world loved them than I had ever imagined.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a whole big process. Did I become rich doing it? No, they cost me money. I probably ended up with the first book breaking even after quite a few years. With the second book, I'm not there at breaking even yet. But it's, I've spent more money on other crap, and it has enhanced my life. It has enhanced my life. And I've helped 4 people write their books, and I never knew that was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to get so excited about helping other people write.
Right.
So let your story unfold for you. Let it take you where it's going to take you.
Thanks, Irene.
You're welcome, sweetie. Anybody else want to share?
Lori wanted to share. She's on the iPhone.
Lori.
Hi, I don't know if I answered the question right. I said, will my book really matter? Is it for me? Is it for others? I mean, it is an amazing story. It's just, why am I writing it?
There you go. There you go. You answered the question perfectly, and it gave you some more questions. Is it an amazing story? So how would you define amazing? Give me 5 words for how you would define amazing.
For the book, you mean regarding the book?
Yeah, you said, is it an amazing story? So give me 5 words.
I guess it would be survival, interesting, helping others. Some of the things, I guess the other word would be hard to believe that some of these stories happen. I know that's
Is it believable? Is it believable? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's believable, but it's like kind of like a soap opera.
There you go.
That really happened. That happens in life. Things like that. That's one of the reasons I want to say, because it's like, really, that my mother did that. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way.
Because when you write it, the story's becoming more real for you.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You answered the question perfectly. Okay. You answered it perfectly, hon.
All right. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Anyone else want to share? Catherine?
Yeah, so, a question beget a question. Why don't I have more acceptance of myself and what happened to me? Why am I letting my family's fear continue to hide my truth? Do I really believe it myself? Yes. Then why won't I say it? Because I want to be a part of my family. Like, I don't want to be, it's that they're going to leave me. When did the healing start? When I got Cookie in my life. The dog was my healer and always has been. And so it kind of moves the whole thing more toward dogs as healers, or animals as healers. So it kind of moved me right into a different spot. So I appreciate that.
See, you just keep asking the question, and you looked at your fear about it, and you stopped the conversation about, well, I can't write because it upset my family. You can't write because it upset you. That's the reason we're all doing it. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid it's not good enough. And we keep constantly looking at ourselves. Is this good enough? Is that good enough? Here's some of the magic that happened for me. I would be writing and I think, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And then after a while, there'd be like a couple of sentences and I'd go, wow, who the hell wrote those? Those are pretty good. I'd get like really surprised when you see them on the paper. because I'd get off my own back and just allow it to come through. It's definitely going like this. It's not this straight shot, not this straight shot at all.
I have always been in awe of people, like especially artists who just channel. They just let it come through. They just open up, loosen up enough to let the ideas flow through. And I think that's got to be my mantra.
Well, what happens with the writing process, and I've heard other people say it, is that you got to keep doing that 15 minutes and deep doing that 15 minutes and deep doing that 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden you're going to find yourself on a roll and you're going to go with it and go with it and go with it. And then you're going to get jammed again. You see that, Jen? Jen's new into writing her book, but you know what I'm talking about, Jen. You just have to push through the sludge.
Exactly.
You just have to push through the sludge, and you push through the sludge by doing it 15 or 20 minutes when you don't want to do it. It's not like you have to sit down and do 7 hours. Nobody does that. They don't. You'd bore yourself. You'd shoot yourself, you know. You just keep showing up at the page. You just keep showing up at the page, and you show up at the page. And I'll tell you what happens after you get into the rhythm of it. It's kind of like when you get used to going to the gym, which has never been my big problem. It's if you don't go to the page, you begin to miss it. Like if your life has got you so busy, you're not getting your 15 minutes, you kind of feel a longing for it and a missing of it. And then when you go back to the page, it can take you like a couple of days, a couple of sessions to get back in the groove again. Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, Irene, I didn't interrupt you, but sometimes I just sit down and I say, my first sentence is, I don't want to write. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do it. And that's all, you know, if I do 15 minutes of that, that's what I've got, but that's how I start.
Right. So I'm going to ask you all a favor, and that Julia, you didn't get a chance to speak. Do you or Anna want to talk, or Tam, very quickly, you want to say anything, or you're all set?
I was just going to say, listening to everybody today, there's a great book called The Artist's Way. It's all about creativity. And there's a section in there, it's called Morning Pages. Yeah. And I've been doing this for 3 years. It's changed my life. And you write 3 pages first thing in the morning, not 3 hours after you get up. It's your first thoughts. And it's very powerful. I mean, it's like it's a channel, and you have a lot comes through. It's your most authentic and honest. And, you know, I always wanted to write a book years ago because it was always about other people. And I wanted to be seen and heard and felt. And what I realized in doing this, I needed to be seen and heard for me. And so what I've written for 3 years was for me to process for myself, so that when I did encounter other people, I was clearer. So I bring a lot there. I bring questions, I bring pain, I bring resistance, I bring joy. And it meets me on the pages. And I haven't missed a day in 3 years because, like Irene started to say, I couldn't, it's like air to breathe. I couldn't live without it. So I just wanted to say.
Anna, I'm so glad you brought that up. Julia Cameron's book was written 30 years ago. She's got some other ones out, a bunch of other ones out. I've taken a class with her. She is the reason. That's how I started. I started in a group 25 years ago. And that's when I realized I love doing this. The thing, let me tell you about her book. Her book is 12 chapters long, and it's the course, her book, The Artist's Way. It's a course that she taught. And don't think about the book like you have to do every single chapter all the way through. Just pick and play with it. All right. Because you could be with that book forever. She asks you great questions to kind of unwrap you. All right. She has another one out right now that I've used frequently. It's called It's Never Too Late, or It's Never Too Late, something like that. Anyway. All right. But it's about being consistent. It's about just showing up, and her pages were absolutely right on target. And she'll ask you all the questions about, you know, how you support other people in their creative stuff, but how you don't support yourself in it. Okay. So Uma's going to put up a little feedback page. If you guys would just give me a little feedback, it's a link that's going to be in the chat. So if you would just get that, maybe answer a couple of the questions about how the session was for you. I know that I was pushing you guys along because I'm just kind of excited about it. And also I want to introduce my program to you. Did you put it in the chat room? I can't see.
I did, yep. In
I
the
don't-
chat, and I can play a little music just to take a second to
All right, just for a moment, you guys, just put anything you want in about it. Oh, okay, I see the feedback form. All right, if you guys would just jump in there and fill it out. As quick as you can.
Where is it? Where is it, Irene? I missed that.
You go into the chat and the link is in the chat. Scroll the link. You know how to get into the chat? Did you find it, Greg? In the chat? Okay. Just a couple of words is fine. Thanks, Uma. Holly, I didn't hear from you. Are you okay? Did you get? Can't hear you, Holly.
Yes, I did submit. I'm not sure why you didn't get it.
No, I'm talking to the other Holly. I'm
Oh,
talking Holly Henshaw. Can't hear you. Holly? Yeah. I just wanted to hear you say hi.
I'm trying to get back to Zoom. I don't know how to get back to you guys. But
Hit the
anyway,
screen. Just hit the screen.
just hit the screen.
Yeah, it should come back.
Trying to get back to the screen. All right, I'm back. Sorry.
That's okay. I do that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, anyway.
Oh, sorry, I did not mean to meet you there. Holly, I didn't know you were gonna say something else. You can unmute yourself if you want to say something.
Go ahead, Holly.
All right. Thank you so much, Irene, for having this course. I've been told for a long time that I should write a book, and it's everything that everybody was sharing today, and it makes me feel more hopeful towards it. And
Oh, good.
And I've really seen, I already had like about 2 months ago, I think I told Irene that I was sitting there in a session and I heard the person said the title to my book with what she said. And I was like, oh my God, now that I have the title, I saw my whole entire book flash before me. And so and then I told Irene, and Irene said that she was having this upcoming workshop. And I'm like, okay, there's no coincidences. It's all part of the master plan of the universe. And so I'm very grateful about it. I just have to keep looking at my self chatter that talks me out of it. Because one of the biggest things that keeps talking me out of it is that who would care to hear what I have to say? And I don't have anybody to pass down my legacy. But I have to look at it and turn it around. Like I'm sharing the light, and it may help one person. And if it helps one person, that's all that really matters.
Well,
So
it's
thank
definitely
you.
going to help too. It's going to help you by writing it. So you'll be more of the light you're meant to be. Tamara,
Thank
did,
Should I
so
share my
that-
screen now, Irene?
what, sweetie?
Should I share my screen to talk
Oh,
about the
yeah,
program?
absolutely. Yeah, well, right. Wait a minute, before we go there, I just want to say to everyone, I had two goals for this hour with you guys. One was to get you excited about your own writing and to let you know to believe in your own writing. And I hope this was motivating. You know, I hope it helped you to like realize we're all asking the same stuff over and over again. Teresa said that she wanted to know about a book. You know, I think Stephen King's book on writing, Annie Lamott's book, Bird by Bird. Those are really easy, fun reads that kind of tell you what they've gone through. Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Love, Pray, she's got a great book called Big Magic, any of those. And I go to those all the time for encouragement if I get discouraged. Because one of the books that I'm going to write next is a fiction, and it's based on a true story. And it's like, you don't even read that much fiction, Irene. How the hell you think you know how to write fiction? But I want to play the game. I just want to play it. I just want to challenge myself with it, okay? So that was one goal. The other goal is to introduce and offer you the opportunity to join my year-long writing program. So love you all and thank you very much. And we're going to put some flyers on the screen.
Thank
So
you, Irene.
So the book writing program that I'm introducing is meant to support and empower you. You're going to get individual personal coaching. There'll be 12 sessions of personal coaching. It's for any kind of writing that you want to do. I mean, I've already said that over and over again. So you can pass that. You can go to the next slide, Uma. It's going to start in February. What's the beginning date, Uma? Is it February 20th?
Sorry, it is February 20th. Yes.
Right, and it'll end on January 8th in 2023. So here's the way it's going to work. There'll be a monthly training session where the whole group, there'll be 12 people all together. There are 7 slots left. The whole group will meet once a month, and the schedule is further on. And I'll do a training and people will do some sharing. And then each person will get once a month an individual session with me to work specifically on their project. So you'll get 12 individual training sessions, or coaching sessions. I don't want to call them training. I want to call them coaching sessions. And the 12 monthly classes or group sessions. All right. There'll be an ongoing Facebook group that I'll be a part of just to keep people kind of connected and kind of masterminding each other, keeping each other on target, you know, encouraging each other. The training, all the trainings, the monthly trainings will be recorded, so you'll have access to that. If you can't make the date, the training sessions will be recorded, just like this one will be recorded. So the 12 live group classes are valued at $100 each. The coaching sessions I charge $175 for the coaching sessions. So the total value of the program, if you bought it individually, would be $3,300, and it's going to be offered for $19.95. There are 7 spaces left, and can they sign up with this? Is there?
Yes, I just put the link in the chat. So if you look to your chat, you can see the link, and you just scroll down a little bit. It's the book writing program right at the top of that when you go to that link.
So if any of you are interested, there's 7 more slots left. You can sign up there. What you get is you get someone to hold your feet to the fire, because people were talking about, I don't stick it out. You know, well, that's the purpose of this program, is to stick it out. And any of you who have taken my retreats or whatever, you know that I am persistent, if nothing else. So I will hold your feet to the fire in the most loving way I possibly can. But a coach can make a big, huge difference on whether you finish your project or not. In January of 2023, I would guarantee you that if you follow through with this program, you will have a manuscript in your hand. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily ready for publication. You might still need some editing and some rewrites, but you will have the package, you will have the manuscript, you will have the full document. So think about it. Think about if it's anything that turned you on, and I hope you got something out of this this time together. There are a lot of how-to books out there that can help you. What you need though is you need someone that you're gonna come face to face with, someone who you're gonna make some promises to, and that you're gonna follow through with them. I can give you some references from others who are working with me as a coach. And if that's of any help, if you want to talk about it more, feel free to email me and we can set up a time for you to talk about the program. And if you want to think about it, okay? Is there anything else I forgot to say, Uma? Can you put everybody's face back up there?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think it's going to be a wonderful program. I'll be doing this program along with everyone else. And I just feel like amazing. Like I've wanted to write a book for over 20 years. And the fact that in a year from today, hopefully I'll still be alive and I'll have a manuscript, you know, like the fact that I can say that and then have Irene's support and coaching through this is just so exciting. And I'm excited for that small cohort of people. You know, it's only gonna be 12 people. So we'll be going on a journey together. So
anybody
says, thank you. Signing up. So Julia, I put 2 links in the chat, and anyone else is interested. The first link, Irene's website, and then events, it tells you the information, then you can hit register, or I also put the direct link there too for the registration page, Book Writing with Irene, Tiny Rather. So yeah.
So love you all, and know that you can do it. You don't need anybody's effing permission. You need to give it to yourself, okay? You've got a story that matters and counts. I absolutely promise you that. And you're gonna be surprised how many stories you have. You have more than one, all right? I love you all. Thanks for your trust.
Thank you, Irene.
Love you, Irene.